Good to have everyone. Good to have everyone on board this afternoon, and excited to meet with you all for a few minutes and share about some good things going on in our department and a neat approach that we're taking to supporting our online course development efforts. We'll run through introductions real quick for the good of the group. Again, my name is Allan Guenther. I am the Director of Instructional Technology here at the University of Alabama. We are part of the College of Continuing Studies and support all of the university's online efforts, degree programs, non-credit programs, early college, etc. We go under the moniker now of UA Online, so it's easy to remember and a pretty good description of what we do. Our department that I actually direct consists of several areas, and that includes an instructional design team, a media team, and a technical support services team, which we have two representatives from that group today to kind of talk through this new process that we have developed. I'll turn it over to Hanna Tinker at this time and to introduce herself, and we'll finish up introductions and then kind of go from there.
Hey everyone, I'm Hanna Tinker. I manage the Instructional Technology Support Group within the College of Continuing Studies. So that's just a lot of words to say that we help support all of Alabama's online courses. After our instructional designers create the courses, it lands with my office and we maintain them for the next 5 years, which is the length of our MOU or course contract. So I will turn it over to Chynna Boyd now, and she will tell you a little bit about herself.
Hi, everyone. I am Chynna Boyd. I am the LMS administrator for UA Online. I mainly, I'm responsible for our non-credit department. I basically troubleshoot issues related to, password changes or whatnot when it comes down to the non-credit courses. So that's who I am. Allan, you there?
Yeah, so I'll run through the agenda for today's session. A little bit about our UA Online structure, which I'll talk a little bit more in detail about in just a moment. We're going to talk about how we have developed and supported and really tried to go by that ADDIE model, but we've never really addressed the E, if that makes sense. And so this new process that we have developed helps us to do that. If you look at a little bit of our UA Online structure, which you see on the screen now, we are that bottom bullet, instructional technology and academic services. And as I mentioned, there are three groups within that realm that ultimately develop and then, as we have mentioned, support all of the online courses that support all of our various degree programs. But to go back up to the top, if you look at the bullet there, program development. So courses and programs come to us, if you will, through our UA Online program development department. And they are the representatives, the liaisons that are interacting with academic departments on campus, with their deans, associate deans, department chairs, and faculty to come up with degree program ideas. If we were working with the College of Business per se to develop a master's program online, the program development team would initiate those conversations and really work through the structure of how the program is going to work. What are the goals for enrollment? When do we plan to launch the program? What are the courses that are going to need to be developed? They also work very closely with, if you see the next bullet there, the marketing and recruitment team. And our UA Online marketing and recruitment team is responsible for just that. They're going to market all of these fully developed online programs in a variety of ways. We have a team of marketing managers that work closely with the academic units to determine who the students are that are being targeted for the program, and then use a variety of ways to reach out to them, whether it's online, print, web, email, etc. And then, of course, there's the recruitment side of the house where we are out visiting with students. We're going to various fairs and events, not only across our state, but across the country, Great example, we've traveled a good bit with our College of Nursing over the years to student recruitment events. They have a healthy repertoire of online programs that they administer with us. And so we go alongside them to look and recruit students for the distance programs as well. Kind of shifting gears into the management of those programs and sort of the once development really has started, you'll find our student services area, and they are involved on the front end in terms of reaching out to students, but they're also very involved with current students, getting them oriented to programs, assisting them with whatever needs they have with registration, kind of managing all of the logistics and bureaucracy of a large university, considering that they're a distant student and not here on campus and can't necessarily walk into an office and reach out to someone that way. They do a lot of things to try and help us retain students. They have an orientation course that provides a lot of resources as well. And over the past few years have really tried to become more streamlined with the services that we offer on campus, so that those students that are in programs at a distance, can have that same great experience as a distant student as those do that are on campus. And then, of course, the management continues of those programs through the support that we provide for courses. And that's where instructional technology and academic services comes in, which is our area. We develop courses kind of from the ground up for new programs. And then, as Hanna mentioned, once those programs are launched, they're sort of handed over to our tech support team, if that makes sense. And from there, they are supported for the duration of that program and the lifespan of that course. We do have as Hanna mentioned, a 5-year, what we call an MOU, Memorandum of Understanding. But essentially that is the length of time that we contract with faculty to offer and support that online course that they developed with us. In the past, we had a 3-year cycle. And so the development of this process that we're going to talk about today has been impacted by the fact that we now have a 5-year cycle.
All right, so I will come in here and we're going to talk a little bit about why we wanted to put the E in ADDIE. So Allan really talked about how we had just changed our process, and this has been several years in the making, but moving from that 3-year MOU to that 5-year MOU really made us think about this evaluation phase. And for the most part, this had been lacking across online courses at the University of Alabama. We do have student opinions of instruction, but that was really all that we had in terms of being able to evaluate our courses. So what we wanted to do is figure out a way without adding any kind of additional resources that would help us achieve this. And so we wanted to go in and kind of figure out if our courses were effective, if there were areas that needed to be updated, and just if our courses were working, because that was data that we didn't really have. So under the direction of our dean at the time, Jonathan Halbeslaben, he's actually leaving now in the next couple of months, but he kind of directed us to kind of put this together. So we developed something that we call the course improvement process. That is a way that instructors can evaluate their course and can help update them outside of the instructional design process. So before I go any further, I just want to talk a little bit about how traditionally this process does not include any of our instructional designers. We currently have 14 instructional designers that will build courses. Like Allan said, from the ground up. We have one that specializes in rights and resources. We have one that specializes in accessibility. And then we have 12 other ones that are actually building these courses. So we needed a way to update courses that did not involve an instructional designer, because as you can imagine, even pre-pandemic, they were a little overworked. And so we did a little bit of restructuring. And before I go any further, part of this restructuring was LaToya Sewell, and she is actually in this session right now. So hey, LaToya, thank you for all of your hard work with this. But her position used to report to the assistant director for instructional design. And under this new structure, to kind of help us prepare for this, those actually moved over to the technical support group. So what we did to prepare for this was really rethink the way that we train the technical support staff and the way we hire the technical support staff. So prior to this, we really focused on hiring traditional IT professionals. So think networkers, think programmers, think those kinds of IT positions, but we really rethought what the I meant. So instead of information technology, we started hiring more instructional technology. And so that meant we started hiring teachers and people that had more of a pedagogy background to help us prepare for this. Now, we still have some left with us that are more of that IT background, but we have made sure to provide them with all kinds of continuing education and different training opportunities that would prepare them for this next step. So as you can see on the slide in front of us, we've already kind of talked about the course development process and why that was extended. So we needed a way to kind of compensate for that, because we also changed their compensation, and a lot of times that compensation was honestly a lot less than what they were making under the 3-year MOU. So we decided to try our hand at the course improvement process. So before we implemented this, technical support was not set up to do any kind of course design or any kind of updates that required like pedagogically sound principles. So we were just there for maintenance. Now, the way our support center is set up is that our instructors, if they want to provide us with their course schedule, they don't have to do anything to their course until the first day of class. So we will copy for them, we will update for them, we will super section for them, and we will set up these courses that all they have to do is show up on the first day of class. Now, the dates are theirs. They do have to provide that to us. So we just wanted to expand that a little bit, because we were honestly getting a lot of requests, especially when a textbook version changes or someone wants to change the way they assess one of the objectives or competencies in the course. And we also needed to address things that are kind of mandated by national standards. So think of nursing, think of social work in the DSM-5, or maybe in business, the CPA exam, things that would need to be updated and would have an urgent, like almost accreditation kind of implication there. But we've now extended this MOU to 5 years. And so under our current rules, they could not re-enter the instructional design process until that MOU expired. So the way this process was created was to kind of bypass that with retraining of staff and using existing staff and doing some restructuring to help give us kind of a supplemental kind of more than maintenance, but less than a complete redesign option for instructors. So Chynna, you can go to that next slide. And so this is the example of the course improvement cycle. So Chynna, Allan, and I worked, I would say, for about a year on trying to figure this out. Part of that year was like during the pandemic. So it was a long time coming, but this is eventually what we settled on. So we are a Qualtrics institution. So our institution uses Qualtrics. That is what is provided to us. So we have a survey that goes out twice a year through our program managers to department heads, and that is kind of filtrated down to the faculty members. So the faculty members fill out this survey, and then Chynna has gone in and created us lots of triggers based on the department that is selected in the survey. So their department has immediately notified. And we added this step for several reasons. Mostly because some of our programs do not allow adjuncts, or in some cases, not even assistant professors, to make changes to their online courses. And so we wanted to make sure that the department head knew this was going to happen and knew this was kind of coming down the, I guess, the pipe, for lack of a better word, to make sure that they were okay with this. And again, that's part of the control. I think we've failed to mention this, but currently we are a non-academic college at the University of Alabama. So our structure is a little different than say a Center for Teaching and Learning, or just though I think the way that most institutions are set up. So we are the College of Continuing Studies, but we also have to partner with academic colleges. And so with that, there are several different kind of policy things that are in play here. So for that reason, even though the department head is the one that kind of distributes that survey, they still have to approve it, just to make sure that we have a system of checks and balances there. But as you can see in that next step, once the department head is notified, they can either approve or deny it. If it is denied by the department head, it gets kicked out of our process and it is no longer eligible. If it is approved, then it goes to the course improvement team, and we'll talk a little bit about that on the second slide. But so the course improvement team will review these requests. We meet every 2 weeks, and that's just a standing meeting on our calendar. And so we accept these courses on a rolling basis. And then that next step with media, as Allan said, we do have a media department here within instructional technology and academic services, and we don't want to make a decision for them. A lot of the courses that come through this process don't necessarily need additional media, but we do not want to accept something without input from them if the instructor is requesting it. So depending on depending on the media situation, then the team would determine the feasibility. And we really look at 3 or 4 different indicators here. The first indicator is what they have requested. The survey is lengthy and it is all paragraph text boxes. And so instructors really have to give us a good justification as to why they want to do this. We did make it a little more lengthy on purpose, because we wanted to make sure to kind of initially weed out people who were just trying to get payment for this, because there is a blanket $1,000 payment if it gets accepted and if it is completed. So we wanted to make sure that the CEs were taking them seriously and that the CEs were putting thought into this, because while we will never say this is a strict rule, we will try to only do this one time over the length of the 5-year MOU. So we want to make sure that we're getting all the information and can make it as good as it can be the time that we do it. Then we will also look at that MOU date, and we will ask questions depending on when this application came in, as opposed to when that MOU was issued and when it expires. So for example, if we have one that, a course that we just had an MOU signed on and it's only been offered for 1 or 2 times, we're going to ask some pretty lengthy questions to why this course improvement needs to happen now, and what is your justification for doing this so early in the life of the course. On the opposite end of that, we will also look and see if it's about to expire, because again, we are doing this without adding any additional resources. So we want to preserve those resources as much as possible. So if we can make some smaller updates through technical support that can kind of help it improve but not be considered a course improvement over the next 2 or 3 semesters until it can go through the full redesign process, we will also do that. And then another thing we will look at is, again, the information that was submitted. Did someone just submit this? And this is something that tech support has done and has never stopped doing. So is this something that is just what we would consider maintenance and not at all course improvement? So what kind of our slogan here is that we will never tell anyone no, but we will tell them not yet, or we can kick it into a different process. So each course that comes through will have some kind of action. It just may not be the action that was requested. So our leadership has given us full autonomy here as a team to kind of make that decision, and we are very appreciative of that. Some other things we would consider is the requested delivery semester versus when that course is offered. So we would pull when that course is offered. And if they request a summer implementation and that course is not offered until like fall or spring, we have the autonomy to move it on to that next semester's load to make sure we keep resources free in case something urgent comes in for the semester requested. So once the team makes a decision, the content expert is notified, and then Chynna works with our instructional technology assistants. Again, I will shout out LaToya because she's in the room, to develop an improvement timeline, and then we will process that supplemental pay form. And then someone on the course improvement team makes updates. I think Chynna has done one. I have one on my plate right now. LaToya has worked on some. So it's very much a team effort there, and we're just kind of making it work. And then the next step is a quality control review. And the reason there is a question mark there is it depends on what was changed as to what quality control review it goes through. If it was a minor change, we would send it through what we consider a tech support review. And that would go to one of my undergraduate students who uses a checklist and goes through and makes sure that everything works as it should and there's nothing out of place. And they are trained to do that. And they actually do that for every course that comes through the design process. So tech support has always been part of that checks and balances built into our instructional technology group. If it is a more substantial review, that will actually go back to an instructional designer and go through what we call a QAC review. And so that uses their more extensive checklist, and that not only checks links and makes sure everything is working, but that's more of a pedagogical, and we make sure that all of our objectives are being met and that kind of stuff. And then once the reviews are done and are cleared, it goes through another level of quality control, and that normally lasts between me and Chynna. We will go in after we get that supplemental review and make sure everything looks good, and then it will go live in whatever semester was requested. The one thing that is different here, that is different than our instructional design process, is that we do not send it back to the department head for review, because traditionally these are going to be more minor updates and they have already approved it on the front end, and that they have approved all of the words that the instructor said. So we're going to build in some trust there that we have actually done what was put in the original application. Now, we have not had this happen, but internally we do have a checks and balances system that if everyone has access to the applications, and that actually goes into our Trello board that we'll talk about in just a second. But if the instructor starts requesting things that were not originally part of the application, then we will kick it back to the team, and then maybe even ultimately to the department head to ensure that we have provision to make those changes.
Hannah, I'll chime in with a couple of comments as well. Hannah mentioned the course improvement team that reviews the request and the autonomy that we have been given by our leadership to determine whether or not, to move forward. A couple of things there. When it's applicable and when we have the resource available, we will sometimes reach out to a member of our instructional design team who might have been involved with that faculty member in building that course, say 2 years earlier or whenever the course development cycle had taken place, because they might be able to give us some more input as to what the person is asking to do and asking to improve. Sometimes it could be a case of, we kind of got behind in the course development process, and man, the faculty member really wanted to do X, Y, or Z, but ultimately we had to launch the course. And so that would, in a lot of cases, maybe they did something very simple to reflect some type of an activity, but had a goal of building those out in storyline as an example. So that might be something that we would say, yeah, we'll approve that, because that's really going to take an existing static activity and improve it and make it better and make it more interactive. So so that would be an example of where we've got an internal resource that can help. also, and this is kind of going back to the beginning, but it sort of, I think encompasses all that we do. And Hanna touched on this a little bit, but in that autonomy that our leadership gave us, really the key factors that we're looking for is, since we were going from a 3-year contract to a 5-year contract, we were making the assumption that faculty might be a little apprehensive about that because, wow, you're telling me my course has to last 5 years. So no, we're not. This is giving you the opportunity to build in that step to make some improvements. And really the key word is improvement. I think that's what our team of evaluators is looking for, is what they want to do, something that is going to make this course better and a better experience for students. Now that could be so many different things and just a myriad of options, but if we could feel comfortable that it's going to fall under that heading, we're more than likely going to approve it. And, you know, it may be a case, like Hanna said, of building out the timeline shorter or longer, depending on what they want to do. But, you know, for the most part, we should be able to accommodate. And really from our leadership, from the top down, that was the main goal. If we can back up that that's what we're doing and that's what they want to do with whatever it is they want to add to the course, then we certainly don't mind paying the additional compensation, rewarding them for their work, because again, they're making the course better, which of course makes it better for the student experience.
Okay, how it's going. Some of these things, they were discussed over in the course improvement cycle. And this right here just goes a little bit in depth about what those processes look like. So how do we actually organize the requests? As Hanna stated, we use Qualtrics. We use Qualtrics to collect our data, and then we take that data that we receive and we move it to Trello boards. And those Trello boards, we add like all of the instructional technology assistants so that they could see, you know, what we see that's coming from the Qualtrics surveys. So we move everything there. And then also, not only do we use this for the ITAs, we also use this for our course improvement team meetings. So we get these meetings, we get in these meetings and we pull up this information, and it has like Hanna mentioned about the long text boxes and all the checklists and everything that they put on the survey, everything that they checked on the survey is now moved to Trello. And it's easily, you know, it's easy for us to look at it that way on a Trello board rather than in Qualtrics, because Qualtrics consists of a lot of different data. So our course improvement team, who are they? It consists of a director, a department head, a program manager, and the media team, and technical support, which is me and Hanna. We use like the program managers and stuff like that so that they can know what's going, excuse me, what's going on. We use, we have the media team, a representative from the media team come in so they could see, you know, what the load of courses that what the load of videos may look like for the course if videos have to be recreated. And the department heads, you know, they know basically, you know, what's going on, and the directors know what's going on as far as, you know, what they have to look forward to. After, when we get in this meeting, we have a discussion about, you know, if it's qualified for course improvement or should it be moved to tech support. And once we determine if it's qualified for course improvement or tech support, we then contact the content editor. And of course, the content editor can be an instructor or a staff member. And we let them know which one, if it was approved, we, you know, send the email and let them know that it was approved. If it was not, basically, because remember Hanna said that we really never say no. So we tell them what we can do. We tell them or give them recommendations or suggestions, and they let us know, you know, what they want, or, you know, as far as working with us, we try to work with them the best way that we can. So after we speak about that, we then go into receiving information as far as what content they want to update, which videos they would like to update, and things of that nature. So after we establish this, well, this is actually established during when it's actually passed off to the ITAs. And the content editor, they start to send the information they want the ITAs to update, and they start sending the information that they want the media team to update. And so after all of these updates are completed, we then go through and do a little assessment and make sure that everything looks good. And then we send it back, sometimes we let the CI team look at it, and we just make sure that everything is up to date, everything is good. And then there we are, we're done with that particular update for that course.
Hey, I'll chime in a couple of how's it going comments as well. We've touched on this a little bit, but when we spoke earlier of new courses that we're developing from the ground up, which of course involve our instructional design team, we have, a very defined course development process that obviously ends with a semester delivery date, whether that be spring, summer, or fall. With the course improvement process, obviously you're not building a course from the ground up, and the resources needed, assuming a project is approved, can really be wide ranging and varying, but they could impact our tech support team or a media team potentially, as has been mentioned. So one of the things that we have to make sure that we do when we're building out that timeline, if we got a request today, and I know Hanna mentioned it also is dependent upon the offering schedule, but if we got a request today to make some improvements that were approved, and the content expert was hoping to have these in place for fall delivery, it'd be our intention to do that. However, depending on what those improvements are and what resources might be necessary to complete them, we might have to negotiate with that content expert to make those improvements and launch it in next year's spring semester. There's an existing version of the course, obviously, that is presumably working fine. So that's just kind of a moving target that we just have to keep the dialogue open with the content expert and try to work with them. Since these projects are sort of fitting in, they're not following the traditional course development cycle. That's one of the things that we have to account for and just try to manage. Another quick comment on how it's going. This is something that I'm proud of, and all of the folks in this session today in higher ed and probably outside of higher ed as well know that so many times we develop processes and procedures kind of after the fact because something has happened to make us do that. And so you're kind of retrofitting because, oh my gosh, look at all of X, Y, and Z that are now coming in, and we've got to develop a process. I'm extremely proud that we really have kind of developed this process prior to a lot of volume of improvement requests. And that really goes back to when we shifted from a 3-year MOU to a 5-year at the beginning of 2021, spring semester 2021. From that point forward, courses that we developed were under a 5-year cycle. So we kind of made the assumption that those courses are going to be in great shape, and it's probably going to take some time for us to get sort of mid-cycle in courses. And over time, we continue to add courses cycle to cycle that are on the 5-year term, but initially probably is going to take a little bit of time, maybe a year, maybe 2 years, to see more volume and improvement requests. And so while we haven't had a lot of them, that's okay. We kind of accounted for that and feel like we're in good shape to manage the volume as those come up. And with a process in place, obviously we're going to run into challenges, things that need to be tweaked or maybe changed up a little bit. But since we've got a structure in place and can kind of experiment with these initial projects that we've had, from my perspective, that's gone well and really sets us up to manage the volume, which could mean we need to add resources. It could mean we need to add and or shift staffing. It could mean a lot of different things, but since we've really got the infrastructure built, it makes it easier for us to be flexible and adapt as the needs arise. So anyway, just a couple of thoughts there in terms of kind of how it's going now that we've gotten this off the ground.
And I'll chime in here too and kind of tell you the next steps. We don't have a slide for this, but some things that we intend on doing next is really diving into those student opinions of instruction and seeing if we can pull out the instructional questions that actually talk about the course. The SOI for online courses is different than main campus courses. And so there is a specific question about course content that we can kind of extract, and we can get a good idea of what worked and what didn't. Another benefit of this process being housed within our tech support offices, we have a very robust help desk system. We use Zendesk. And so Zendesk has a wonderful reporting feature. And so our next steps are going to be to go into Zendesk and mine some of that data out and figure out if the course improvement team, and really probably me and Chynna, can identify some courses that could potentially benefit from course improvement based on the types of complaints and requests and the types of assistance students and instructors are requesting. So that's kind of where we plan to go next. And I think one thing we all have kind of forgotten to talk about is to just kind of give you an idea of the amount of courses and students that we tend to deal with every semester. So depending on the semester, we deal between 1,500 and 2,500 individual sections of online courses. And that can run between 5,000 online students. And on top of that, our university offers a campus code called Online Main, which allows main campus students to take some of our online courses. Those are completely different sections. They are most of the time combined into one, what we call a super section, like into one course shell, but they are different courses. And so that can add anywhere between 2,000 and 3,000 students on top of the 5,000 registered UA online students we have. So we feel pretty confident in the data that we can get out of our help desk system to kind of help, improve this process. So Chynna or Allan, did y'all have anything else that you wanted to add? No? All right, well, I guess we will open it up for questions while you guys are thinking about questions, or I guess feel free to put them in the chat, or if y'all have speaking privileges, feel free to just ask. But I will drop our contact information in the chat. So if y'all have any questions, or if you would like a copy of the process, we would be more than happy to email that out and send it to you. But yeah, we can just open it up for questions now.
Guess we could use the it's late in the day excuse, but Hanna and Chynna and I are in different locations, but we're in the central time zone, so it's actually later for us. So anybody going once?
There's a question in the chat.
Okay, how do you get faculty encouraged to reach out for help? That's
we'll
a great
make a
question.
joke and say they have no problem with that. No, I'm just kidding.
Yes, they do, no doubt. But I will say this, one of the things that obviously they do reach out, and many of them have relationship with us from developing courses and doing various updates to their courses. But our program management team that really serves as that liaison with the academic units, they have a lot of varying, wide-ranging roles, but one of them is communicating on a regular basis with their academic departments, with the department chairs, whatever levels of leadership there are in that academic unit, associate deans, et cetera. And so that was one of the things that they helped us communicate to departments as we develop this process and we're ready to deliver it and say we are now ready to accept, a project request. They helped us in disseminating that survey and just communicating it in the meetings that they're in, that we have program management representation with all of our academic colleges on campus. It's not one-to-one, but a program manager may serve 2 or 3 colleges, for example, and communicate with them in various ways. So that's really a main way that we get the word out, is through our program management team. And that goes beyond this process as well, but particularly when we're developed and offering something new like this, they were instrumental in helping us to get the word out. I'm still not completely convinced, just because it's new and because we've operated a little bit differently in the past. I'm not convinced that there's still the level of understanding across our campus in terms of what this is and how it can benefit them, but it's getting there. It's getting better, and word of mouth helps that too. Once someone has worked with us in this way, they share with others, and next thing you know, we're getting other requests. So that's kind of how we have approached it so far.
And one thing that tech support does is, in the past, when an instructor would send us an update that was, too big for us to do, that was more instructional design work instead of maintenance work, we would just unfortunately have to tell them no, because we didn't have the resources or the process or really the training or know-how to do this. So under this new process, when something like that comes into tech support, we're able to send that link out directly to the instructor, and they can, then apply for it. The issue with that, and we're seeing that now kind of within our process, is that our full summer semester, which I could talk all day about the craziness of summer semesters at the University of Alabama, and maybe it's like that everywhere, but we technically have like 5 different semesters for the summer. So the main ones start May 31st, and we manually prep like all 1,500 to 2,500 courses. So if someone sent us something now wanting it to launch in the summer, and that hasn't happened yet, but this was an additional process added on to what we already do. So I don't think we have the manpower right now to be able to feasibly do that and do it well. So that would be an instance that we would try to move it to fall or maybe even spring, depending on the preference of the instructor. And that's just by the nature of what we do. The tech support office is myself, and then 6 people. We have Chynna. I have 3 instructional technology specialists, 2 instructional technology assistants, and then depending on the time of year, I have between 6 and 8 undergraduate/graduate students. So we're relatively small for the volume that we have. And so we have to be able to fit it in well without compromising the expectation that we've already built on campus. So all of that kind of goes into getting faculty encouraged and keeping them encouraged and not discouraged about being told not yet. So
I had a quick question. Do you find that, or have you come across this, any faculty saying like they're worried about wanting to change a course because they're scared it might get back to like someone higher in their department, and everyone's always fearful of like hurting someone's feelings?
Mm-hmm. No, the last course we accepted, and Chynna and I are both PhD students in this specific department. So we kind of got a giggle, but it was actually like the opposite. Like the department head actually designed it. One of the instructors was like, "This is not good," and like straight up told her that, and she was like, "Fine, do what you want." So actually, it has gone the opposite direction. But I would expect that some of that might come out or be even declined in that department head approval step. And a lot of what we also have, a lot of instructors that teach, they were also the CEs. So most of the time when an instructor develops a course, they teach it in some fashion, and that's not going to get through the department head step if someone steps in for the summer semester and doesn't like it. if we have a 9-month faculty member and they add in an adjunct to teach it in the summer, the department head is not going to allow the adjunct to go through this process just by their preferences. Now, I say all that to say that while we are a one-stop shop and a full service like support group, we don't do anything to keep instructors from changing their own courses. So they are more than welcome to make those changes themselves, but that may affect the type of support we are able to provide. So some examples of that, we have a lot of instructors that like to put things through third-party publishers or use a textbook company. And because we use students as kind of like our tier 1 support, those companies will not give us administrator rights to that product, because that essentially opens up all of like their product to students who would eventually have to buy it, right? So they will not give us those types of credentials. So we are upfront with them and tell them, depending on what you change, we may not be able to support it if we would had it been built by us, because our instructional designers build it in a way that it is fully supported. We work very closely with them. And so we tend to see those challenges more than we see kind of the political side of like not wanting to hurt people's feelings. Does that make sense?
Yes, ma'am. Thanks.
And the funny thing about the course that Hanna mentioned, it had to go through the department head that actually created the course.
Yeah.
It had to go through the department head that created the course for approval for it to get to us to start working on it. So I guess, it was a case where the department head was like, okay, this is out of my hands now, send it to tech support and they'll get it all straightened out. So yeah, and we did as much as we could with that. We couldn't do basically a whole overhaul, like, we couldn't do what instructional designers do. We're still, remaining in the tech support area, but we're doing our best, and it's coming together. It's come together very well. So it was a job for tech support, and they needed us in that moment. So yeah.
One of the things I'm interested in seeing, and I think it's going to take some time for us to really develop some data as we get more project submissions, but we use the broad umbrella of approval, saying, is this something that would improve the course? And of course, that can mean so many different things. And even in the kind of lower number of requests that we've gotten so far, they've all been really different. And so I think it will be neat over time to start to come to some conclusions about what are the general topics of improvement, even if it's as simple as, we're getting a high percentage of improvement requests that involve producing media or involve producing interactives or whatever they might be, because, that can just help us to prepare. It might even impact our staffing, not only in this group, but our instructional design team, our media production team, et cetera. So, I think that's going to take a little bit of time. Also then to evaluate how long those projects took, because these are, again, not falling in a standard course development cycle. So we may negotiate 2 or 3 months to finish a project. It may take longer than that. And so I think we're going to have to get a number of these so that we can then go back and say, okay, here's what's really happened. And here are what those improvements look like. We've made some assumptions, and I think we've made some pretty good guesses so far, but it'll be interesting to see what really happens over the course of, even over the course of a couple of years. I know we're kind of getting close on time. Any other questions that anyone has? All right.
Well, thank y'all so much.
Yeah, this has
Thank
been
you for
great.
joining us,
A lot of
everyone.
fun.
Don't forget to fill out the survey. Let's see if I still did not have that available on my, goodness gracious, I'm being tested. Well, thank you all for being here from Alabama, and thanks for going on round 2 with your presentation. You did great. The recording, I'm going to go ahead and stop that. And